20 years ago, if you stood in any city on Earth, London, Lagos, Jakarta, Sao Paulo, and looked at the phone in the nearest stranger's hand, there was a good chance it carried one word on the back: Nokia. At its peak, this one company controlled more of the mobile phone market than any company before or since. Not Apple, not Samsung, Nokia. Today, most teenagers have never held one. So what happened? How does a company that once sold more phones than anyone in history simply disappear from people's pockets? The answer isn't really about phones at all.
It's about a company that reinvented itself so many times, it forgot how to do it one last time, when it mattered most.
To understand how Nokia fell, you have to go back to a place that had nothing to do with phones at all. Finland, 1865. This is a country that doesn't formally exist yet, a grand duchy under Russian control, a cold, forested territory with almost no industry to speak of. Into this world walks a mining engineer named Frederick Idestam. He isn't dreaming of telecommunications, he's dreaming of wood pulp. Idestam builds a pulp mill on the banks of a set of rapids near the town of Tampere. 3 years later, he builds a second mill, further downstream, on the banks of a river called the Nokian Virta, chosen for one simple reason: better hydropower. He names the new company after that river, Nokia. At this point, Nokia is not a technology company. It's not even close. It's a paper company, competing to supply pulp to printing houses across the Russian Empire. But something else is happening quietly, decades later, in the very same small Finnish town. A rubber factory opens. Then a cable company, built to profit from the newest craze in the world: electric wire, telegraph lines, telephone cable. 3 separate companies: paper, rubber, cable. Different products, different founders, same small Finnish riverbank. Nobody planned what would happen next. In 1967, those 3 companies stop competing and merge into one. Nokia Corporation is born, and it is, frankly, a mess. By the 1960s, this new conglomerate is manufacturing paper, tires, cables, televisions, even components for nuclear power infrastructure. It looks less like a focused business and more like an industrial junk drawer. But buried inside that junk drawer is a small, almost invisible electronics division. And in the 1970s, that division starts experimenting with something nobody in Finland has built before: radio-based communication. In 1979, Nokia and a television manufacturer joined forces to launch something revolutionary: the Nordic Mobile Telephone Network, the first international cellular network on the planet. It doesn't look like a smartphone. It doesn't even look like a phone you could carry easily. Early models are the size of a briefcase, built for cars, not pockets. But it proves something. People don't just want telephones bolted to a wall. They want to talk from anywhere. Nokia has stumbled onto the future. It just doesn't know it yet. Somewhere on that phone, there's a game about a snake eating dots on a tiny screen, and it becomes one of the most played video games on Earth, decades before smartphones existed. By the late 1990s, Nokia isn't just winning, it's dominating. At its peak, roughly 4 out of every 10 phones sold anywhere on the planet carry the Nokia name. The formula seems unbeatable: rugged hardware, brutal manufacturing efficiency, a supply chain that can produce hundreds of millions of units, and a brand that people in Helsinki and Lagos and Manila trust equally. Nokia isn't just a company anymore. It's the closest thing the world has to a universal phone, which makes what happens next almost impossible to believe. By 2010, the cracks are impossible to hide. A new CEO brought in from Microsoft sends an internal memo comparing Nokia's situation to standing on a burning oil platform. Stay and you burn. Jump and you might survive the fall. The decision that follows is one of the most controversial in corporate history. Nokia abandons Symbian and partners with Microsoft, betting the company's future on Windows Phone. It's a reasonable bet on paper. In practice, it's too little. Built on the wrong ecosystem, arriving years after Apple and Android had already captured developers, app makers, and consumer habits that are almost impossible to win back. Consumers don't switch operating systems easily. Developers don't build apps for platforms with shrinking audiences. It becomes a downward spiral neither Nokia nor Microsoft can reverse. In 2013, Microsoft agrees to buy Nokia's mobile phone business outright. The following year, the deal closes. The company that once put a phone in nearly half the hands on Earth no longer makes phones at all. Within a few years, Microsoft writes down billions of dollars tied to the acquisition and quietly shuts the phone business down entirely. So where is Nokia today? The brand didn't vanish completely. Licensing deals brought the Nokia name back onto new Android phones built by other manufacturers, a strange echo of a company that once refused to use anyone else's software. But the real Nokia, the corporation, went back to its industrial roots one more time. Today, it builds the invisible infrastructure that mobile networks actually run on. 5G equipment, network hardware, the pipes and switches that carry every call and every video stream, including the ones made on the phones that replaced it. It's a smaller, quieter kind of relevance. Not the company in your pocket anymore, the company underneath the network your pocket depends on. There's a temptation to tell this story as a simple tragedy, a giant that got lazy and paid for it. But that's not quite true. Nokia had reinvented itself before. Paper into rubber, rubber into cable, cable into electronics, electronics into the biggest phone company the world had ever seen. This was a company built, almost literally, on the ability to become something new. It didn't fail because it lacked the ability to change. It failed because, for one critical decade, it stopped believing it needed to. The companies that disappear aren't always the weakest. Sometimes, they're simply the ones that stop changing.